Hi. I can't get my head around this thing. So I have a fear that self-realization may lead to suffering, in the sense that this will be attacked or rejected or not understood, or and the idea that um, someone said to me once many years ago, be careful about putting your head above the parapet, because look what happened to Jesus, so this is the thing that I think scared about, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, yeah. And so that's good. Let's delete David unmuted and let's just explore that then. So from the perspective of the absolute, I remember you mentioning this to me once before, David, and I remember saying to you, there is no parapet. And what I mean by that, from the perspective of the awareness, the perspective of the awareness, which is eternal and always present and untouched and unmoved, it doesn't experience this, this idea the parapet is a concept. And yet, if we were to if we were to sort of buy the story of Jesus, but it could be any realized being, then it's actually true in experience of people like Jesus the Buddha. Anybody who has realized the self, the realization of the self here as Philip, will always ultimately be misunderstood.
Mm.
Yeah, will always ultimately misunderstood. There'll be a group of, there'll be a range in that. There'll be some that are so totally open to this and join events like this, who have had some sense of a calling and really are feeling called to this and are open to this and are starting to see that there is more to life than what they've been conditioned into believing, and so get called to something like this. Right at the other end of the spectrum, to somebody who's deeply in the story. And yeah, I mean, this will be threatening to them. It will be threatening because they're so locked into belief systems and stories that to actually for that to be challenged will appear to them to be life threatening.
Mm.
Will appear to them to be really. I mean, no joke about that. It's seriously, that's how strong it can be. Now, in moving through this, then if this fear is present, that too, as I was saying earlier in one of the earlier questions, is an invitation
Mm.
to face that fear head on and say, okay, if one opens fully to this realization, the flowering of this realization, and one sticking one's parapet head above the parapet. And I know there was other questions similar to this in the build-up about there can be this sense of wanting to share this and so forth, but then this fear arises about that. Then that's an invitation. There's something in the emotional body there that's going, you're still in fear, you're still living in fear. There's still something in the emotional body that you're buying into as a story. This doesn't mean, by the way, that it would be a good idea to go to, let's say there's a community of people who are just so totally far from this in their experience, and stand in front on the pulpit or the soapbox and preach this to them. That's probably not a wise plan.
Mm.
Because you will be shot down and you may actually even be physically. That may, more practically speaking, the expression of this will naturally evolve, face the fear. And those that are resonating with that, and people will see this change in you, and people will be curious about it. They'll want, and this has happened many times to me over the years, I would like that which you have. And, I'll say, well, actually, you already have this, but are you open to realizing it? And so that is that the way you expressed it. It's just a fear that's arising about this. For as that fear too is dissolved and the realization is fully flowered, and if we use the word anchored, and by anchored I mean to itself, as this, the untouched awareness, then its expression through the vehicle of David will naturally flow. And yeah, there may well be times of integration, times of the emotional body presenting issues to you to face. This is all a natural part of the process. But as those happen and as those get dissolved, they will become less and less. And there won't be suffering present. There won't be suffering present because the clarity with which the knowing that one is this is now so anchored that if something arises, then more often than not, it's seen and lasered there and then, or it might take a little bit longer, but then it's just simply watched and allowed. It's just simply watched and allowed, and that's not suffering. It's just simply recognizing, that's been presented. I'm not that. It's a gift to dissolve it. Does that help, David?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, for some reason it just keeps coming up, this one, and I think as you were talking, there was an acceptance that of course people are not going to get it. So it's to do with, partly to do with believing that everyone should get this, and of course they shouldn't until they do. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is like that. You don't until you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. That really helps.
And so you there may be the experience of excuse me a second, trying to understand what I'm saying here, but you'll never do that. You will only inner stand. And what I mean by that is that it arises. You'll have experiences of aha moments. And the reason that those aha moments come is because you already know. You see, there's nothing I can tell you here that you do not already know. Did you hear that, folk? There's nothing I can tell you about this that you do not already know. As the awareness, it's simply arising to be realized. Oh my gosh, I've just had a realization there. There's just been awareness there. What is that aha moment? Well, it's awareness. That bit of awareness has percolated up and been seen clearly. Well, of course I knew that, because you are that. How can it be otherwise? And that's also why, and not many people do this, and there's nothing wrong with it or right about what I'm about to say. I tend to avoid the use of the word teacher. People get called spiritual teachers, and one can understand that because you will experience it as a teaching, most likely. But in truth, there is no teaching, there's only realization. Are we okay with this, David? Is there anything more?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.